Assalamu alaikum and what's up everyone and welcome back. All right, today we're going to be talking about RAW versus JPEG. I'm going to do some demonstrations for you here on the laptop. I'm going to show you why shooting in RAW is what you should be doing and avoiding JPEG as much as possible. All right, you guys ready to go? Let's dive right in. All right, let's get started. So first of all, let me give you guys some information on what RAW and JPEG is. So RAW, most of you guys know out there, but if you don't, here's the information on it. It's some basic information. You may want to look it up, but it's an uncompressed file and it's an unprocessed file. So it's an uncompressed, unprocessed file, and the camera gathers the maximum amount of information when you're shooting in RAW. And it can come in 12 or 14-bit, depending on the camera that you have, or depending on the specs out there, so it could vary. And if it comes in 12-bit, that's 4,096 shades of reds, greens, and blues. That's huge compared to what I'm about to tell you about JPEG. But before we get to JPEG, a little bit more. It has a ton of information. When you're shooting in RAW, your camera is capturing colors, highlights, shadows, dynamic range, white balance. All this data is being stored onto the file, onto the image for you to use in post-processing, which we're gonna do right here. I'm gonna show you guys comparisons. All right, but moving on, before we get to that, JPEG. Now, JPEG, been around forever, obviously, an 8-bit file that contains 256 shades of reds, greens, and blues. It's compressed, it's processed in the camera, so the file's already processed. Most of it is already done. There's not much you could do with it in post-production. You can play with it a little bit, which we're gonna do right here, but not much you could do with it after that, right? Let's see, the difference in colors is huge. From 16 million colors on an 8-bit JPEG to a 68 million on a 12-bit RAW. But if it was 14-bit, that's much greater. That's actually 4.3 trillion colors. Now, what are you gonna do with all those colors? Well, you're not really too concerned about having the maximum amount of colors. Well, let me take that back. You might be, but it's really how much data you can extract, pull out, play with. You can get really creative. You can really do a lot with the photo when you have the maximum amount of data. And that's what you want, especially if you're doing this as a professional. If you're doing it as a hobbyist, you may want cool photos too as a hobbyist as well. So if you have the ability to shoot in RAW, you should be shooting in RAW. Moving on. All right, dynamic range. The dynamic range is far greater on a RAW file than a JPEG, which allows you to recover some overexposed and underexposed images. You know, a lot of us shoot under, so this way we can recover the highlights and the shadows and bring out so many details. JPEG, you're limited to how much you can bring out. Again, I'm gonna show you. All right, you have flexibility with adjusting white balance in post in case you got it wrong. Hey, maybe you want, temperatures a little bit different. You want to adjust your white balance. Hard to do that in JPEG, easy to do that in RAW. Great flexibility, you're able to do that. And here's the biggest thing, guys. Whether you're a hobbyist or you're a professional, if you're taking photos, these are your photos. One way to claim ownership, and this is a major way, is owning the RAW file. When you own that RAW file and it's an epic photo and you put it out there, no one can say that's my photo because it belongs to you. Since you own the RAW file, you have the RAW with you. All right, moving on. Let's jump right into the computer. Okay, so on your screen right here, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 files. All right, so on these files here, we got JPEGs and RAW. So we got a RAW file here. I got a JPEG here. This is Burj Al Arab, and I got a beautiful, beautiful layout of the sun flaring down between the mountains. And we got another one where the sun is peaking. All right, so we're gonna grab an image and we're gonna start editing and do a comparison. Let's start with this one right here. All right, so this is right before sunrise, 6:58 a.m. This was back in December. Beautiful sunrise. I'm gonna hit develop. You guys can see on my screen right there. And let's start playing with the exposure. Now this area here is dark, so I wanna bring this area out. So let's see how far we could stretch it. Okay, there it is right there. All right, and let's drop the highlights, a little too bright. And let's stretch the shadows. We've already got some problems. We got some issues happening here. Not nice issues, right? I want to drop a little bit of dehaze. All right, you know, before we go any further, let's look at it. So let's zoom in. Look at that. You got some purple stuff happening. Your details are gone, you know. You could see what's going on, that there's something there, but it doesn't look too clean, all right? Now let's look at the raw file, all right? Same exact image, all right? And this is ARW, which is a Sony raw file. And I'm going to bring up the exposure first. So I'm able to see, all right, stretching it out. Throw some dehaze. Whoop, too much dehaze, not good. Drop the highlights. Bring out the shadows. All right, maybe do some contrast. I'll put some contrast on the other one too. I know you guys are going to say, hey, you didn't do contrast on the other one. Some contrast, drop the whites. And let's look at it a little bit. We got some more details here, right? Look at that. We got some more details. Now let's do a comparison. Side-by-side comparison. All right. Now, you judge for yourself. Look to the right, look to the left. The raw file has so much more data in there. You could see the details. It just looks cleaner. It looks smoother. Now, this is not a photo, obviously, I would post right away because it needs a lot of work, but you can see a comparison already. Look how this one falls apart. Look at the JPEG. JPEG just completely fell apart, and the raw still kept it a lot smoother. There's still more details in there, right? Look at that. Look at that. Now, there's some noise, so I would denoise this. I would remove a lot of the noise, but look at the comparison. Look how this is. Look at the blotches here. Look at that. Right? This is a JPEG, guys. Not much you can do with a JPEG on, if you want to take this on a professional level, or even if you want to post it on Instagram. You should be shooting in RAW. All right, let's take another image. So let's get out of this one, and let's take let's take this. All right, let's do another sun. Sun's flaring up. Right? This is a JPEG. I'm gonna hit develop, and I am going to bring up my exposure. Okay, a little too strong, so I'm going to drop the highlights and bring out the shadows. Just trying to make it look as nice as possible. I'm trying to do a real edit here. I'm not trying to just make it look bad. I want to try to see if I can make it look good. You know, this is a nice photo. I like the sun coming up. You know, add some vibrance. My white balance, obviously there's no white balance, so can't really mess with it too much. All right. Without going into too much work, because I usually spend a lot of time on my photos, let's just say we'll go with this. And now let's look at the raw. All right, bringing it out. Not too much there. Drop the highlights and bring out the shadows. Drop the whites. Pick up the blacks. All right, and then we're gonna zoom in and do a little comparison. Maybe do a little dehaze. All right, let's look at the sharpness here. Let's do a little comparison side by side, and then I'll let you guys judge for yourself. You guys can see if this works or not. Okay, so immediately I see a problem. I see a problem with the highlights because there's not much data in there to recover. My highlights look like they're dull. They're not really crisp. They're not shining. Look on this side here with the raw file. It looks clean, polished. It looks like a genuine file. I mean, if you zoom in a little bit, all right, let the computer catch up. Catching. Come on. It's loading. All right, so if we go through it and try to see, you know, we're looking, I see some, look at the grains on the right, look over here, and look at here. The details are lost here, they're washed away. Obviously, they're painted in, but there's a little guy with the boat, look at that, oh, that's cool. So the shades, the colors, the contrast, there's a huge difference. If I pull back out, all right, you can automatically see, look at the top right corner, the details, they're lost, they're baked in on JPEGs, you can't do much. All right, let's do another test. And let's see, all right, let's start with this one. This is a JPEG, obviously. It says JPEG on the left corner, and it is dark. So this is really underexposed. So if I bring it out, I can see the mountains now. Drop the highlights, pull up the shadows. Ooh, got some ugly stuff happening in the background. Really ugly stuff happening. All right. So we got some issues here. We got some color issues. We got some white balance issues. We got some stuff that's really difficult to fix. Look here at the bottom too. All right, let's see what we can do with the raw file. All right, so dropping the highlights, pulling up the exposure, shadows, white balance, blacks, vibrance. We have room to play now. We got stuff happening. Look at that. Pull up the blacks a little bit. Bring out the shadows, drop the whites. I'm going to show you guys some details. My white balance. All right, so I'm going to bring up the white balance. Give it some life. Okay. I would really spend some time working on this, but I'm not going to take the time away from you guys. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little comparison side by side. RAW is on the left. JPEG is on the right. Let's zoom in. Let's see what we got. Look at that. Look at that. Look at these blotches of green. The details are lost. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. So there are some purple flowers here. We recovered. We lost. The JPEG side, the details, the colors, they're lost. They're all over the place. The raw side, again, this is not a completed photo. I would still spend some more time on this, making it look amazing. But guys, look, I mean, I don't have to show you anymore. Just, you could see it right there. These blotches of green. Look at that here. You don't see any of that. You got more details here. Look at the grass. You could see the texture and the colors. You can bring out, look at the, it's like, you could see the purple in the flowers and the green in between. Now, of course, this needs more work, but that right there should sell it for you on why you should be shooting in RAW. This is amazing. Look at that. All right. And let's do one last image, and I think you guys will get the point after that. All right, so this is a JPEG, and I'm going to tweak it to where I think it could look nice. I'm going to the exposure, drop the highlights, shadows. Guys, I have a full course on editing. If you're interested, shoot me a message. I'll show you how I could, you guys can sign up for that. Pulling up the blacks. A little bit of clarity, texture. Now, mind you, I'm not using any of the options down here, which I definitely would. I would remove chromatic aberration. I would enable lens correction, so many things. But if you guys want to use Lightroom, send me a DM. I'll teach you all about Lightroom. I do workshops. All right. So this is, without this image falling apart, this is what I can do. Now, if I want to stretch it, it's not going to look good, but this is stretching it, dropping the highlights, dropping the whites and the highlights. This is stretching it if I want to bring out the details. All right, let's see how much we could stretch this raw file. Exposure, bring up the exposure some more. I got white balance to play with. Look at that, it already looks nice. Look at that. It already looks nice. And highlights, whites, shadows, bringing them all out, dehaze, and then we're going to do a side by side, and I'll just let you guys judge for yourself. Okay. It's a no-brainer, guys. Come on, look at the raw file, how much I was able to do. I was able to fix my white balance. I was able to give it some more color, more life. Now, I honestly would not let this photo look like this. I would probably go more for a silhouette look and give it a nice black shape. But look at the details. This already looks nice. You can post this to Instagram right now, kind of. But the JPEG, you can't do much with it. You shoot it in the camera. If your settings are not right in the camera, or if you're shooting in auto, I guess, then you're shooting in auto, right? you can't do much with it. This is your outcome. This is what you get. All right, guys. So sticking to it. That's going to do it. Again, JPEG versus RAW. You should be shooting in RAW if you're doing photography and you have the ability to shoot in RAW. Take advantage of that. Cameras have come so far that the technology there is amazing. So whether it's an entry-level camera or a professional line camera, you have the ability, most of them at least, have the ability to shoot in RAW or JPEG. Shoot in RAW if you can. Even mobile phones now give you the option to shoot in RAW. So you should be taking advantage of that. If you guys have any questions or if you like this vlog, please give me a like, a subscribe, hit the bell, a comment. Let me know what you guys think. I'm gonna be doing a lot of these tutorials and I'm excited about it. Back on full time. So looking forward to the next one. Thanks for tagging along. Hey, and if you guys want to see more of my images on what these photos actually look like when they're completely processed, check me out on Instagram, TG from Dubai. You can check me out on Instagram. Give me a follow. It'd be cool. That'd be nice. And you can see all my photos. And you can see my stories every single day. See what's going on. All right. Thanks for tagging along. Catch you on the next one. Assalamu alaikum.